to, you made it this far. That's great. And I'm sure you've taken a whole bunch of information with you, from everything from mindset to meal planning to budgetary concerns to just how to deal with some of your health challenges. However, I bet for a lot of you, you might know all the right things to do, but still find yourself standing in front of the fridge at weird hours of the day or night, eating food that you don't even want, and not even realizing that you're eating it and not being able to stop. That's called emotional eating or stress eating, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. My name is Michal Offer, and I am a functional nutritionist and integrative nutrition coach in Calgary, Alberta. And we're going to go through some strategies to change your behavior and change some of your thoughts and perceptions around emotional eating. I do have a handbook that is in the folder section of our Facebook group, and that just gives you some extra information, a couple of extra exercises and some tips to go through when you've had the talk. I would also grab a pen and paper because you might want to be taking some notes or answering some questions. I have a free gift for all of you for making it this far and listening to my talk too, and that's my Food Freedom Now ebook, which you can download at the link that I've provided in this post. This will give you some tips on how to nourish your body and your spirit, a little more on the food side than what we're going to be discussing today. So I would like to go ahead and share my screen with you. So bear with me a moment, and hopefully technology won't let me down, and then we can get going. All right, let's get this done. Awesome. So, you know, as a wellness coach, I'm astutely aware that health and vitality are about creating a well-rounded life that feeds and nourishes you on multiple levels. And as you've learned throughout the summit, this includes the food that you eat, the way and the amount you move your body, your lifestyle choices, the thoughts that you think. It's also about awareness and understanding your body and how its needs are in a constant state of flux, shifting and changing. Wellness is dynamic and an individual state. Now, you might find yourself tired of relying on willpower to control your habits, or you avoid certain foods because you lack the self-control, or you're afraid of how you'll feel afterwards. Sometimes you might find yourself overeating to a point of discomfort and then beating yourself up with feelings of guilt and full of self-loathing. You might feel stuck in a pattern of emotional eating that can both hurt your body and your emotions. And I know that part of your being here is the desire to regain the self-trust between you and your appetites. My mission is to guide people to create this awareness and understanding around their bodies. This allows us to heal our relationships with food and nutrition, and it in turn stimulates healthy digestion, regular absorption of nutrients. It improves numerous health concerns. It effortlessly regulates our weight. It stops the struggle with craving and allows the focus to be on living a vibrant, balanced life, on implementing all this wonderful knowledge that you're learning and everything that you know about living to its fullest. Now, in the struggle against overeating and making healthy food choices, intelligence isn't everything. You can be intelligent. You can even be brilliant, and you can still struggle with overeating. Intellectually, you might know what to do to eat healthier, but this doesn't seem to translate into positive choices. Now, we know that we have both an IQ, that innate intelligence, and we have an emotional intelligence, which really encompasses some aptitudes, the ability to perceive, use, understand, and manage emotions. The good news is that these skills are not fixed at birth, so you can learn and develop them. And that's what we're going to start to do today. Emotional intelligence helps us navigate our relationship with people. It deals with the dimensions of your intelligence responsible for how you navigate your relationship with food too. Think about it for a moment. Which emotions impact your food choices the most, and why? I'm thinking about something like boredom. You know, it's hard to have downtime or just relax, or that feeling that you have to do something. Remember that stress eating. I'm talking about excitement and happiness or being in a crowd. You can write them down on this piece of paper that you brought out, or just think about them and reflect. Oh, goodness, I seem to be having an issue. Okay, moving on. So, what is emotional eating? Emotional eating is eating in response to positive and negative feelings. It could also be referred to as stress eating or eating in response to feeling overwhelmed. Now, some examples of emotional eating, I'm sure you could think of some, but we could think of holiday eating or stress eating at work. We're going to answer a few questions to see where your brain is with regards to your food and your feelings. And you can just put a little tick next to each time that you say yes to an answer. And we can evaluate a little bit of this once we're done. So ask yourself, can you identify specific feelings that typically prompt you to eat, such as boredom or stress? Can you identify feelings that make you lose your appetite, such as anxiety or guilt? Are you able to express your feelings clearly to others? Do you have flexibility when plans change? Are you able to recover from an eating mistake and get back on track? How aware are you? Are you aware of how your emotions affect your decisions to eat or not eat? Are you empathetic towards your own and the struggles of others around eating issues? Are you able to clearly distinguish between emotional and physical hunger? Are you able to listen to your body's cues, as in to stop eating when you're full or eating for energy? Are you able to decline food tactfully and respectfully when people urge you to eat, even if you're not hungry? Do you use food to avoid your feelings? Can you cope with uncomfortable feelings? Are you flexible in your thoughts around food? Are you in tune to your own eating and you don't consciously or unconsciously mimic the way other people eat? Can you cope with stress without it having a negative impact on your eating decisions? And can you respond effectively to a craving, either answering it without eating too much or letting it go? How mindful are you feeling right now? Are you present, or did you find yourself zoning out and trying to avoid these questions? What we want to talk about is our emotional dimmer switch. This is a term that we can use for emotional regulation or a way to manage our feelings. It's the ability to understand and temper your emotions, and we can do that in both healthy and unhealthy ways. Examples of a healthy way is exercising or talking to a friend or being mindful. Some unhealthy ways could be substance abuse or using food or zoning out. What are some of the best ways that you think you can use to turn down or to turn on your dimmer switch to regulate your emotions? Emotional regulation, or being able to take charge of this dimmer switch, means that you are able to regulate emotions without eating. This is the key to healthy eating and to avoiding emotional eating. Think about this for a moment. What did you last decide to eat? How did your feelings influence your choice? Were you stressed, alone, bored, angry, or were you just really hungry? Are there particular situations where emotional eating has felt inevitable to you? Write these down. These are important. Do you try to use logic and reason to fight your cravings? How's that worked for you in the past? Describe your thought processes as you open the door to the refrigerator. Do you grab the first thing, or do you contemplate at length? Do you have any strategies for maintaining calmness? Now, we all know that it's been estimated, or we don't all know, but we make a lot of decisions every single day. And it's been estimated that the average person makes at least 200 decisions about what to eat each day. There are several studies that show the connection between how you feel and the food decisions that you make. The studies make a very solid case for the fact that emotions have a significant impact on the way you eat. Again, we go back to those original questions. Which emotions trigger you to eat more? Which ones trigger you to eat less? That moment of decision is the moment you decide whether to eat or not to eat. In every decision you make, thinking and feeling play equally important roles. Mindfulness and that emotional intelligence we discussed a little while ago overlap in their focus on awareness. In this moment of decision, your first task is to become aware or mindful that you actually have a choice and acknowledge that a decision must be made. And there are two ways to work through this choice. You can react, which is an emotionally driven decision, or you can respond, which is an insight-driven decision. In an emotion-driven decision, emotions rule your food choices. And in that moment of decision, you react to your feelings automatically, which leads back to familiar behaviors and patterns. What we want to work on doing is responding. In these insight-driven decisions, emotions might influence your food choices, but in that moment of decision, you create a momentary pause that can assess your initial reaction. Do you decide while you are emotional? Let's discuss the mindful pause. This creates a gap between the reaction and the response, so you can make a conscious, insight-driven decision. You can fill that gap with some calming tools, and you can improve your ability even more to make these insight-driven decisions and the kind of food choices you really want to make. Tell yourself, acknowledge that moment of decision and tell yourself, stop. You can respond rather than react. You may not be able to decide how you feel, but you can decide what you're going to eat. You want to perceive that you have the choice. You want to predict that you, again, can have one or two behaviors, and you want to prepare yourself to make the decision that you know will best suit you. The way this would work is you would have a feeling or an emotion. You know that during that feeling, as you're experiencing that feeling, there's that moment of decision. And rather than immediately reacting, we stop. We pause for a minute. We embrace and accept our feelings. And we turn to positive alternatives. It's an empowered choice. You can choose to eat or not to eat. Neither one is right or wrong, but you can choose rather than just going on autopilot. I want to delve a little deeper into emotion-driven thinking as compared to insight-driven thinking and compare the two. Thoughts that are emotionally driven thinking are things like, I want it, or to heck with this diet, or it's so unfair, why can't I eat whatever I want? Or I'm so whatever emotion you might be feeling. I need chocolate right now. This craving is too strong, I have to get into it. I'm going to go crazy if I don't have a specific food. Or it's the holidays and I have to celebrate. On the other end of the spectrum, insight-driven thinking is, if I eat that, I will feel physically awful. I don't need this chocolate or donut or cookie or slice of bread. I just want it. This is a craving and this will pass. This is not helping my goal of better nourishing my body. If I ate this now, would I be soothing my feelings with food? I know that that never helps for longer than it takes to swallow, and then I need more. And lastly, I have the power to carefully choose what I eat. If you make impulsive decisions, the effort comes in exploring all of your options, even if it's tiresome. This is not fun and this is not easy work. Behavior change takes time and commitment. But stick to it for a little bit and you will notice the changes. If you obsess over decisions, the challenge is trusting your gut just a little bit more. I want to continue going through that mindful pause just a little bit to show you how it would look as a behavior. You want to stop for a moment, pause, and identify this as a moment of decision. You want to give yourself time, at least 10 seconds, to create awareness. You want to understand your feelings in that moment. Use words to describe them. You can either write them down, or if that's not possible, just say them to yourself. Are your thoughts driven by insight or emotion? You want to stay present in this moment. You want to notice the urge to push the emotions down and use the feelings to guide you rather than to push you. And lastly, you want to entertain your options. Give yourself at least 2, and an alternative that can also calm your body, mind, and spirit. If you find yourself emotionally eating regularly, there are some tools that I like to put out there to help you to calm your mind. You don't have to use all of them. You don't have to use any of them. But picking 1 or 2 and using them when you feel the urge to open the fridge for no reason other than an emotion can really go a long way into calming the mind and the spirit and allowing you to make that insight-driven food decision. So the first one we're going to talk about is mindful meditation. You would find a comfortable, relaxing position. You start to breathe really deeply and focus on your breath. You want to intentionally focus your thoughts on where you are right here, right now. Notice and accept whatever comes up, good or bad. Watch your thoughts come and go. They're just thoughts. There's no need to change them. You want them to float up to your brain, up to your mind, and then float away. If it comes back, if your mind wanders, bring it back without judging, without calling yourself wrong. When you feel ready, open your eyes and shift your attention back to what you are doing. If that's a little long for you, you can think of some calming words that help you in the moment. This can fill the gap between feelings and actions. Some great ones are progress, not perfection. This too shall pass. Keep calm, carry on. I'm okay, I'll survive. Or anything that resonates with you. Find a little saying and repeat it a few times until you feel calm. As with the mindful meditation, you want to try some deep breathing. This will put you in touch with all your senses, what you are seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, and tasting. I prefer to do this when your feet are on the ground. You slowly inhale for a count of 4. You retain your breath for a count of 4. And you slowly exhale for a count of 6 to 8. Repeat this at least 3 times and watch your stresses slowly start to be removed with that exhale breath. Keep on repeating though until you feel calm. A little more advanced is to analyze your cravings. When you feel a craving, ask yourself, where are you? Where am I? Has your location triggered the craving? For example, you're standing in the kitchen, so you just want something from the fridge. Or you're at a family gathering and you're feeling a little out of sorts. What are you doing? Have particular activities activated your appetite? How are you feeling at this moment? Again, it's naming those feelings. Who is with you? Does this personal relationship trigger your cravings? Why do you want to eat? How long ago did you last eat? Are you looking for pleasure? Are you stressed? Are you feeling a particular way that you would like to stop feeling? Try these questions each time an intense craving pops up so you can slowly begin to understand them. Moving on. The true pleasure of eating is embracing and accepting your need for tasty and appealing foods while finding the tools to balance pleasure with nourishing eating. We are biologically programmed to enjoy certain foods. In other words, enjoying your food is normal. Don't beat yourself up about it. The notion of willpower is overrated. If it was just about just say no and making yourself wrong, which is negative speak, we would have had success by now. Just say no will only get you so far. Current ideology revolves around building some resilience and practicing your ability to be mindful when you eat. Your experience of pleasurable food may change over time. What you love and crave today may not be what you find pleasurable tomorrow. And remember, as humans, we are pre-programmed to seek out pleasure. And pleasure is a word that is used to describe a whole bunch of positive mental states, including enjoyment, fulfillment, and ecstasy. The pleasure principle is a positive feedback mechanism that motivates us to recreate a situation we perceived pleasurable in the past, and similarly avoid a situation that may have caused an unpleasurable emotion in the past. Pleasure is essential in our well-being and in our survival. The problem arises when we mistake a particular pleasure with a food craving. A craving is an intense desire for a particular food, not just a cookie, but a soft-baked oatmeal cookie, for instance, nice and warm and hot out the oven. Nothing else will satisfy. On the other hand, the desire to eat pleasurable food is human. Nourishing your body is essential, and evolution has made it a pleasurable experience so that we will want to eat. Without food, we will die. And if we didn't enjoy eating, we wouldn't eat. We are focusing on managing this desire so that you can experience pleasure and satisfy physical hunger and physiological nourishment all at the same time. Sadly, in our modern lives, it's all about instant gratification, and it can make this difficult to determine your true wants and needs. This just say no approach has been proven to be a failure, and other behavioral techniques, some of which we've already discussed, are more effective in connecting with your true needs and desires. Pleasure-driven eating begins in the brain. Unfortunately, there can be too much of a good thing. The mindful pause, the stopping, that taking a moment to reflect, to respond rather than react, allows you to slow down long enough to weigh short-term pleasure against long-term goals. So how do you choose an option? Well, I have a few tools to help you with that too. Number one, you want to limit your choices. You just want to have a few. Too many options can lead to choice overload. A decision is way easier to come by when the options are limited, one or the other, or between 2 and 3. Your next one is to make it a routine. We tend to follow our routines and our habits regardless of our feelings. Think about brushing your teeth every day as an example. Creating routines around food and eating, like preparing food to take to work the night before, or having good snack options ready for work or for at home, or ensuring you're always sitting down at a table with a plate when you are eating, are great ways to create routine around food. Another one is remove things from your plate. You decide what you definitely don't want to eat. This helps to rule out distracting variables and clarify the decision-making process. Often, if we're just standing in front of the fridge, we'll eat anything that's there. Making that decision of what you don't want can really help. Connect. Close your eyes. By blocking out visual stimuli, it allows us greater access to emotion. You can visualize the problem, and this allows you to make this insight-driven decision when you know exactly what you are feeling. A lot of us are striving for perfection, and we need to remember progress, not perfection. Be okay with good enough. In the absence of perfect, the good enough option starts to remove that self-blame, shame, I blew it attitude and self-talk from the picture. It starts to close the door to future self-sabotage. You also want to make your choices as easy and convenient as possible so that there is no time to overanalyze and to self-think. So again, let's review. What does pleasure eating look like? Pleasure eating, which triggers a reward center in the brain and increases our pleasure and good feelings. We want to react. So it's the desire to prolong or increase these positive feelings. If you can take that pause for a moment and evaluate the short and long-term pleasure consequences and let go of attachments and feelings, you can make an insight-driven decision, cognitively choosing and making the decision that works best for you at the time. We're going to move on to a few emotional intelligence markers that we can attribute to our food and to our emotional eating, to some emotional eating situations. That'll give you some behavior modifications that you can begin to try if you find yourself in these situations. So the first one is going to be impulse control. And the example of that is you find yourself just constantly putting your hand in the bag of potato chips. You want to stop snacking, you know you've had enough, but you keep on putting your hand into the bag and you keep on putting food into your mouth. And instead of just trying to tell yourself to stop or just one more, rather create the imagery of deceleration. You're in a car and you're slowly taking your foot off the gas pedal so that you move from moving forward at a fast speed to eventually stopping. You want to reach for your food slower. You want to take more time in between each reach. You want to take fewer at a time. Work on this and watch your snacking or that emotional or boredom-driven eating be a little more controlled. Let's look at flexibility. Now, for many of us, if you're looking at a bar of chocolate, it's the, I gotta eat it all. I can't just have one piece. It's the all or nothing effect. You know, it's that black and white thinking. I blew it anyway, so I'll just eat everything in sight. This is where you need to be proactive and find the extreme points in your all or nothing decision. You want to imagine them on a long line. You want to find the middle point of that line. For example, having 2 pieces of chocolate instead of the whole bar or nothing at all. Find other points on either side of that center and give yourself more options so that you can make that decision cognitive. Awareness. You could also be overwhelmed with all the healthy eating plans and you're not sure which one to choose. What works for me might not work for you. And it's important to understand that and tap into your own uniqueness, your personality, and your preferences. You want to create 2 lists. One is a list of food you enjoy, and the other one is a list of foods that are not important to you. Pay attention to the patterns on the list, and you can already dismiss any food plans that are not really in alignment with your preferences. Now, if this is still confusing for you, that's when you want to seek extra help by getting a nutritionist or a health coach to help you and guide you through your choices and decisions. I'm sure we'll all experience the wanting to give up. It's too difficult and you want to give up. You want to pay attention to that self-talk. You want to minimize the I can't or this is too hard and focus on resilience and strength. This gives you the ability to bounce back from and cope with adversity. In your life in general, look at other significant changes that you have made and give yourself a few minutes of positive self-talk and affirmations daily. I can do this. Change is hard at first, but this too will pass. It's the same as those calming words. You want to keep saying them to yourself and eventually they will become so. We also want to work on our optimism. Sometimes when we're following an eating plan, we feel hard done by. It's that it's not fair syndrome, or it's only me syndrome, or why can everybody else have it and I can't? Change is never easy, but it's always possible. And you are doing this to create a different result. If you don't think anything will change, nothing ever will. You want to visualize, you want to see yourself living the changes you want. You want to be specific. How do you look? How do you feel? What are you doing? You want to repeat this visualization several times a day. And it's especially helpful when you're feeling cranky, resentful, if you feel like you're missing out, or those cravings are really intense. Continually doing so will create a reality in your brain, making actions and reactions easier for you in the future. This is a question I get from my clients a lot. You're unsure of what portion size looks like, and self-regulation becomes really difficult. And especially if we've been in the all or nothing mindset for so long, we've lost the ability to naturally do that. You want to eat mindfully. You want to eat slowly. You want to really make an effort to engage all your senses. You want to chew and savor each bite. This process alone will go a huge way to regulating your portion control and increasing your enjoyment, no matter what the food choice is. So even in that moment of decision when you are choosing to eat and choosing to eat something for true pleasure, it might not be for nourishment, by engaging all your senses and slowing down and experiencing the pleasure, you will be able to regulate your portion with much less effort. The last one is developing some social skills around eating. And this happens to many of us. We eat more when we're in company, or you feel obligated to partake. And a few rules that I have that I give my clients who are really struggling with emotional eating is, number one, put a stop to the diet talk. Consistent chatter about everybody's latest diet is no fun, and it promotes this all or nothing thought pattern, right or wrong, stigmatization, food pushing, judgment, sabotage, like a friendly sabotage and such things. And instead, we want to join those who are discussing healthy eating, organic foods, great restaurants, new recipes, and just that small shift can really change what you can eat, what you can't eat, to what you can eat, and it can help reset the group norms. So it's really about focusing on the positives around foods rather than the negatives. It's also really important to look around and be very aware of how you eat in company. We often tend to mimic both the amount and the speed of the people that we eat with. And being in touch with your own emotions, again, with that self-regulation, will help you determine what's right for you, rather than just being part of the crowd and doing what works for them. I hope I've given you some skills today that can show you, or that can start you on the path where you can break that cycle. I wanted to leave you with a few last thoughts and tools to cope with impulse eating. And these are written down in the handbook that I've provided you, along with some questionnaires, just to see how you make decisions and how your mind works when it comes to food. So number one, some coping strategies, as I said. You want to focus on gains rather than losses. Fear does not motivate good decision making. We shy away from the things we fear, and we're more likely to give in. So rather than my pants won't go up, or I'll be healthier, or use something like I will fit into that dress. Humans naturally lean towards the short term rather than the long term benefits of pleasure in a situation. Again, take that moment, pause, reflect on your present and future gains when trying to reduce the impact and that impulse to grab food. You want to use physical stop signs. The color red works great. When you see red, your mind automatically sees stop. So you can try red plates, napkin signs. Another one is physically that sign stop, when you put your hand up. Even putting your hand on your leg and saying your name, it would be like me saying, Michal, stop, creates that momentary mindful pause. When in doubt, chill out. Instead of using action-based words, telling yourself to exert willpower or to fight or to control the urge to eat, you want to use more passive technology, like rest or stop or relax. Passive words and those calming words that we spoke about earlier have this calming effect, and a calmer state of being inhibits the pull of temptation and creates an environment where insightful decision making is possible. And lastly is reset your expectations. Be realistic. What do you think food will do for you? Expectations are powerful and make it easy to keep eating in hopes that the feeling you are expecting will eventually come or will stay. Give yourself a mental nudge and remind yourself that food does not come with a money-back guarantee if the expected feeling is not delivered. You want to focus on alternatives that bring longer-term pleasure. So I hope that this has helped you out a little bit with some effective and behavior-based strategies that you can implement today, right now, tonight, to help you start to gain control of your emotional eating. Again, if you did want to download more about how to nourish your body on a physical and spiritual level, you can download my my book that I've given you a link to, which is called Food Freedom Now. Don't forget to download your handbook. That'll give you lots of extra information. And you can connect with me either through my email, on Facebook, on Instagram, through my website. All the links are here. And I look forward to hearing your feedback and your questions. I hope you've learned some stuff today and look forward to talking to you soon. Have a great day, everyone.